welcome back to Driven to Compete channel. My name's Sean. If this is your first time on the channel, hit that subscribe button and the bell so you can stay up to date on all my latest videos. You asked for it, so here it is. Another follow-up video on Jimmy's Mark II 16 valve GTI with the ITB carb swap. So I'm gonna show you here what we're talking about. There it is, 92, the only year, right? Only year for 16 valve? 2.0?
No, for a 2-liter valve.
For a 2-liter 16 valve. So there it is, 200 and plus K on it, all original. I'm going to zoom this out so you can see the car a little better. You know, this car has been on the channel. You guys have asked for running and driving videos. You've asked for details on the car. And, you know, it's just a super nice, fairly original car that Jim was able to pick up at a steal, because that's just how he is, rocking our channel decals. But yeah, there you have it. And for those of you that haven't met Mr. Boosted Tag, there he is, and he's a Honda guy. Even though he's wearing his GTI hat and he's driving this, he's truly down-to-earth Honda guy, and that's probably what gave him in search of more power. He came up with this idea. And you've been having issues, right, with the fuel injection? Why don't you tell your story?
It started acting up just a little bit because it had the mechanical CIS fuel injection. They tend to get a little goofy after a while. You got to really maintain those things. And so instead of that, I decided just to go ahead and replace it with these R1, Yamaha R1 from a 2003 carb setup.
And I'm just going to shoot some shots here while you're talking,
okay, to
let the people see different angles of what all we've done on this.
Right.
It's pretty slick. Go ahead and...
So I'll go through everything.
Yep.
All right. These are, like I said, carburetors out of a 2003 Yamaha R1. Anywhere from 2001 to 2003, I think they were the same. I just picked those because this is a 2-liter as opposed to a 1.8. If I was going to a 1.8, I might have gone to the R6 carb, slightly smaller, a little more matched to the engine.
Sure.
I think these tended to fit this motor a little bit better. Plus, I got some work done to this thing. I'll go through the list here real quick. It has, I believe it's 268 cams in this thing. Well, actually, it might be a 272 cam. I didn't do the cams, but it was already done before I did the work. So it was already worked up a little bit. It had an aftermarket intake, some other stuff that went along with the CIS, but that all came out when this went in. It's a full Tektronix exhaust system and header. It also has a Tektronix chip in it, so a little adjusted timing, so it gives a little more power that way. The adapter in between here, and there's two different things we have, is the intake runners, and there's also a little tube in here that needs dropped down.
Yeah, you can see that.
For the coolant.
Yep.
Those came from a place called Bog Brothers. They're in England. So I had to special order these from Bog Brothers. They actually made them when I called them. Now, anybody can call them up and get them made.
Now, I will point out, I've also done a search, and there are, not all the time, but there are sometimes you'll find them on eBay where somebody's selling the carburetors and this as a package. But again, it's not there every time I've gone to eBay. It's not always there.
Yeah, but I got mine through Bog Brothers. I bought them from them because they've done this a bunch of times. They know how to do it. This is an old school thing that I kind of turned back around. I didn't even know about it until I started researching it myself. But they build these runners at the correct angle, because it is super critical, and everybody asks, why are these on an angle? They're on an angle because they have to be on that angle. That's how they're situated in the bike itself. The floats are set up for that particular angle. So if you actually get it off angle or anything, the floats aren't going to be set up right. They're not going to work like they're designed. So you ordered the kit, you had this made, you got the carbs. Yep.
Okay, and you got the neck, the water neck for the
water neck.
Okay. So then what else? You got all that, it came to the house. What did you have to do next?
Essentially, just put it in and fabricate everything else. You're going to have to change the fuel system around a little bit.
Why don't we talk about that?
There's a couple of options there. You can either put the R1 motorcycle fuel pump in the tank or external to the tank, but feeding this system with basically 3.5 psi. That's what these carbs are looking for. The problem with that is that's a returnless fuel pump. This is a return system. Trying to plumb that in was kind of like a headache for me. We were going to go that option. I even went as far as buying the fuel pump, but just to make life easier, I decided to stick with the factory pump because it was already working good. It's a dual pump system. We installed 2 regulators is what we ended up with. I tried doing it with just the one. It was supposed to go down to like 4 psi, which theoretically should have worked with these carbs, but it didn't quite make it. And I wasn't happy with the adjustment. So we decided just to bump that pressure back to like say 8-9 psi, and then bump it down from there with a secondary fuel pressure regulator. The first one is a full return regulator. It returns back to the tank just like a normal system would.
So, that's what he's showing you here, that there's the fuel return.
And then, now I just have a lower feed that can be regulated down right into the carbs and feed the carbs. So now I'm at that 3.5 psi. It's totally regulated. It never moves from that. So as far as the carb setup from there, it's
we got the fuel issue to the carbs figured out at that point. Okay, but we also had some issues with the throttle.
You'll see
go ahead.
This is a throttle linkage that I came up with. It took me about, I don't know, an hour to build this thing. I just came up with it. The problem is this is a motorcycle carb. So essentially, full throw, you only have a little bit of travel until that thing is full wide open throttle. Well, the pedal actually, I only had like an inch of pedal travel in the car. So I felt like there was no travel between nothing and full, which you can't really drive that like that. So what I did is I created I guess a cantilever system where you reduce the rate of throw.
You try to give you a better shot of that.
So for the inch of travel that you need up here, it takes about 2 inches of travel at the back. So now I got my full cable throw at the pedal. Just kind of moved it around and calculated that out in my head.
So then why don't we talk about the fuel map issue, or the timing, right?
Initially I had some timing problems when we did this, because the stock throttle body was looking for 2 signals. It was looking for a minimum position and a full throttle position. That's what these 2 switches here are for.
I'm going to zoom in here so they can see those switches better.
So all I did is put a couple bolts in this little piece, which triggers minimum throttle. You can almost hear it click over the second I pull that throttle. And then when you go to full throttle, or almost full throttle, I put it at like 90% to go to the higher map.
I heard it click.
It gives you a new timing map. So basically you get your idle map, your off throttle map, and then your full throttle map.
Let me back this back out now so that we can see everything in detail.
Essentially, that made the timing system for the computer completely work with this thing. There's some other options that are out there. People always suggest, well, why didn't you use the, there's a different distributor that changes. You got to rely on vacuum, everything else at that point. And then you're kind of guessing. This thing already had a chip to it. It already had the upgraded timing setup for it. It pretty much already works with this engine package. So rather than bypass that and go with kind of a half-assed mechanical setup, I'm keeping the full engine computer in play here, and I can stick with a stock distributor, which I know works well with this motor. And from there, it just works.
You got your throttle issue, your fuel issue, your timing issue resolved. Let's talk about tuning these carburetors, because that gets to be a bit of a trial and error.
Well, the tuning of the carbs, pretty much if you talk to any Yamaha tuner, they're going to know what you need to do to tune these carbs out. Now, a Yamaha R1 isn't going to have anywhere near the amount of airflow that this 2-liter motor is going to have at the lower RPMs. So what you're going to find is, and what I found is, we needed a whole lot more fuel than what they called for from factory. I guess what I did is I ended up buying a stage 4 jet kit for this thing, which puts that quite a bit higher than stock. Unfortunately, it still wasn't anywhere near enough. I think I ended up with like a 1.4 jet, and that's 1.4 millimeter jet on the main jet. I actually bored that out to 1.85 till I finally got enough fuel for this thing. So it's significantly larger than even a stage 4 jet. So what you could do is theoretically take your stock jets in these things and drill them out with a 1.85 mil. And that's going
now
to
that's your main.
Your cams and everything else. Like I said, everything in this.
You may not, if somebody doesn't have cams in theirs, they may not need that much fuel.
They may not need that much fuel. That is what my engine requires.
So that was the primary. What about
there's also some needles in there. These are basically a vacuum actuated needle control. So as you throttle up, it pulls that needle up. And I could show you in here, but we didn't tear these apart yet. But it pulls the needle out of that main jet, which actually allows for the fuel to come out. So there's actually different needles with that kit that opens it up a little more, a little quicker to give more fuel at the bottom end and mid-range and then top end. So the needles get changed out. Also, you can adjust the needle position, how far down in that jet it goes. The further out it comes, the more fuel you get initially. So I had to play with that to get, you know, all the sweet spots, but overall it's not that hard to set up. There's also a pilot jet in there, which basically is your idling fuel and your just off throttle fuel. So that will also need opened up basically the same percentage as the main jets for the most part. It depends on your cams and whatnot, so that's all stuff that has to be tuned out. You know, a good Yamaha tuner can actually tune that. Any tuner really can tune that. It's just a matter of figuring out, okay, well, we need this much more fuel at this part, and there's just those few little pieces that need to be swapped out. So other than that, it becomes fairly straightforward for any tuner, anybody that can tune. Even a regular guy can kind of look at an air fuel gauge and figure out, okay, I need more fuel here. Which one is that? And go with that, so, or less fuel or whatever. So
so we've explained the fuel. We've gotten there. We will make one comment to you that we didn't, Jimmy hasn't gotten around to doing. They make a relocation bracket for his alternator that would allow him to adjust these guys a little bit more so that the air cleaners fit better.
It's out of a different car. Some of them have the alternator in the low position instead of the high position. Takes a different belt. I'm probably going to upgrade to that yet. That's one thing I have not done at this
you
point,
can see it's very tight here.
I mean, they're touching.
Yeah, they're touching. So that's on the to-do list.
It is on the to-do list.
But, you know, I think overall,
it's a work in progress.
It runs, you know, I guess people are going to ask, does it run better with the ITBs or
I think it runs
fuel injection?
A whole lot stronger, actually.
Okay.
I get more bottom end, mid-range power. I'm not so sure about top end power. It might be close. I think I get a little bit more with the carb setup. Like, even though I had big runner intake, these carbs still, I think, flow a little bit more air. So it does make a difference. The filters are critical for your performance levels. I noticed some of the other filters I put on that are smaller, you lose a lot of power. When I just have these open, I make even more power than I do with the filter on at all. But I don't know, didn't want to take the chance on having open carbs at this point because I do daily this thing a lot. So
well, how about we take this thing for a drive? I'll let you start it from out here, let people hear it, and we'll go from there. Starts right up, no issues there. Damn thing sounds so good too.
Oh, that's one other thing is the Carbs give throttle response like nothing else. It's just instant instantaneous.
Yeah, instant. Nice.
It actually throws everybody for a loop when they hit the gas the first time, how quick it actually revs up. So.
Well, we're gonna go for a ride and give you guys a feel for what it's like in the car. You guys are in for a treat here. This guy drives this thing like he stole it. Literally. Maybe it's because he did steal it for what he paid for it.
Maybe.
Oh, here you go. Wow. Okay. I could have swore we were on two wheels back there. Well, there you have it. Boosted tag, driven to compete, and hopefully you enjoyed the video. Seriously, we took it on one take. It's as raw as it gets. A lot of information there. If you skip through the video, I recommend you go back and you watch it all, because there's a lot of great details. There's a lot to think about when you're doing this type of a swap, and Jimmy really, you know, did his homework, and there were still challenges about that came up that we didn't plan for. But
it takes some thought, but it can be done by pretty much anybody that just puts their mind to it.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. So there you have it. Number one watched video, I guess you could say, on the channel, right there.
Well worth the swap, in my opinion.
Yeah. It runs great. I hope you liked some of the video. I shot it all from my phone. We just did not have the time to put some GoPros on the car, but I think it's going to come out well. As always, hit me up on the comments if you have questions. Watch, like, subscribe, driven to compete. Have a great day.